8 recordings from Indian cities. For each case, location, time, and source. The material may be disturbing. On March 28, 2025, in the Belagavi district of Karnataka, police discovered an elderly couple dead. The woman, Pliviana Nazareth, was found inside their home, while her husband, Diog Giron, was discovered in a water tank outside. A note left on their table revealed they had taken their own lives because of unbearable pressure. It all began in January, when they received a call from someone claiming to be an employee of a telecom company called Sumit Bira. The caller accused them of using their phone for crimes, visiting forbidden sites, harassing women, and drug trafficking. The call was transferred to a man identifying himself as Crime Squad Officer Anil Yadav, who warned them they could face life imprisonment. But the scammers offered a way out. If the couple paid 5 lakh rupees, around $6,000, their names would be cleared. Believing this, the elderly pair complied. That was the start of their nightmare. The scammers demanded personal data, bank details, and forced them to move money to so-called secure accounts. With constant calls, video chats, and threats, the couple lived in relentless fear. Over time, the criminals extorted nearly 50 lakh rupees, about $60,000. The victims even pawned their gold and mortgaged their house. They saw only one way out: suicide. Their farewell note read, "We were happy and self-sufficient. I am 82. My wife is 79. We don't want to live under anyone's mercy. That's why we made this decision." A month later, police arrested one of the fraudsters, though many others remain free. The world learned about a man who had long hidden behind the mask of a regular school teacher. On August 10, 2023, 35-year-old Briton Matthew Smith was charged with running an illegal scheme through the darknet, using teenagers from India for his purposes. Over 5 years, he spent about £65,000, nearly $87,000. Investigators found that he provided the teenagers with instructions and training materials, including so-called guides on how to gain children's trust. When his devices were searched, more than 120,000 files involving minors were discovered, most of them from India. Even more disturbing were the details of his past. From 2007 to 2014, Smith worked in orphanages and NGOs in India, later moving to Nepal, where he once again took a teaching position. The exact number of victims during that time remains unknown. In 2022, he returned to London, became deputy head of a primary school, and even posted online ads offering childcare help in exchange for housing. Parents trusted him and welcomed him into their homes, unaware of who he really was. But in 2023, his activities were uncovered. At the time of his arrest, Smith was in contact with an Indian teenager, and his computer was open on darknet forums linked to illegal content. In November of that year, he was found guilty on 22 charges, including organization and distribution. The court sentenced him to 12 years in prison. Asaram Bapu was a guru who for decades was revered as an enlightened teacher. To millions, he was seen as a living god, with hundreds of thousands of devoted followers and a network of more than 400 spiritual centers across India and beyond. But behind this image of holiness was a man whose story shocked the nation. In August 2013, the parents of one of his disciples brought their daughter to Asaram, hoping he could help her through an emotional crisis. Instead of receiving guidance, she faced a betrayal of trust. Eventually, she found the courage to speak out, and her testimony marked the beginning of a major investigation. Despite denying the allegations and claiming a conspiracy, Asaram was arrested by police on September 1, 2013. As the case unfolded, even darker revelations emerged. Many women and girls described being pressured, threatened, and tightly controlled within his organization. Some lived in complete dependency, unable to leave the ashrams. Most disturbingly, 9 witnesses linked to the case died under mysterious circumstances, while Asaram, even from behind bars, continued to exert influence by intimidating judges, prosecutors, and journalists. On April 25, 2018, Asaram Bapu was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. The judge declared, "This man disgraced his spiritual authority by committing horrific acts." Later, his son Narayan was also arrested, accused of crimes against women in one of the ashrams. was clear that the material collected and distributed by Matthew Smith did not remain in his possession alone. He shared it on closed darknet forums, and, unsurprisingly, traces of this content later began circulating online. Some of it even appeared on TikTok, particularly within the Indian segment of the platform, where unsettling communities were known to exist. The situation with TikTok in India had long been under scrutiny. In 2019, the government decided to ban the platform entirely. The reason was that the app had become flooded with questionable content, including scenes of violence and other illegal material. The Supreme Court issued an order, forcing Apple and Google to remove TikTok from their app stores across India. However, the ban was only partial. Users who had already installed the app continued to use it. In other words, it was less a total shutdown and more an attempt to curb TikTok's growth and limit its spread in the country. Many observers pointed out that the Indian TikTok segment was considered one of the darkest and most unpredictable. There, one could find not only bizarre local videos, but also unsettling situations involving tourists caught on camera. Imagine this. A travel vlogger is filming while walking through the streets of India. Suddenly, a child approaches him asking for ice cream. At first, he tries to refuse politely, but the child keeps following him until the vlogger gives in and buys the treat. What seems like a small moment quickly spirals out of control. More children appear, each demanding the same thing. The atmosphere grows tense. A woman shows up, and one might expect her to calm the situation or at least thank the tourist. Instead, she too begins insisting on getting ice cream. Her behavior looked so odd and inappropriate that it shocked both the vlogger and the viewers who later watched the footage. The most unsettling part of this scene was that it didn't feel like a simple street encounter at all. In the comments under the video, people noted how disturbing and ambiguous the situation appeared. And this was not an isolated case. Many tourists have shared stories of strange and sometimes frightening experiences during their travels. Even local residents upload clips showing events on the streets that are anything but ordinary. Sometimes, videos appear online that are impossible to forget. One such recording was captured in the Indian city of Ragwa. The footage shows a stray dog carrying a small bundle in its mouth. On closer inspection, viewers realized it was human remains. According to preliminary reports, the dog had not attacked or abducted anyone. Most likely, it found the body at a dump site and, driven by instinct, carried it away. Experts noted that if the animal's intent had been aggression or feeding, it would have acted differently. Instead, it seemed to be searching for shelter or guarding what it had found. The video quickly spread across the Indian segment of TikTok, going viral within hours. Yet what shocked viewers was not just the act itself, but the entire context, so grim and tragic that it felt unreal. And disturbingly, this was not the first time such cases have been reported. One of the most discussed videos in the Indian online space showed a deeply disturbing street incident, where a child was publicly humiliated by an adult man. The scene caused outrage, with many pointing to the caste system as the underlying reason. The man belonged to a higher social group and believed this gave him the right to demean those of lower status. Shockingly, such episodes remain a reality in modern India. The caste system is an ancient way of dividing people by birth, where fate seems predetermined from the start. Because of this, immoral and degrading actions often occur and are, in some circles, even seen as normal. These incidents highlight a broader problem of discrimination, fueled further by fake news and rumors spreading through social media platforms. A tragic event in India shocked the entire nation. A mobile phone video surfaced showing two men pleading for their lives, but minutes later, a mob ended them. It all began with false rumors that spread rapidly through Facebook and WhatsApp. The victims were not criminals at all. One was a 29-year-old musician, the other a 30-year-old entrepreneur. On the day of the tragedy, they were simply driving home after a trip to a popular waterfall in Assam. But in that area, fake messages about child kidnappers had been circulating for weeks. Villagers, trusting every word they saw in messenger apps, were ready to take drastic action. When the two friends stopped by a stream, a local accused them of abduction. They left to avoid conflict, but the accuser alerted another village, giving a description of their car. A crowd gathered, blocked the road, stopped the vehicle, and, believing the rumors, declared them guilty. The entire scene was recorded and posted online as a so-called warning. The case sparked outrage across India. Police launched a large-scale investigation, and more than 50 people were arrested. The most alarming takeaway is simple. A single fake message on WhatsApp can trigger a chain of events that leads to disaster.